Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Game Society, I call this The Tale of Shadowfall Mountain. Alright everyone, this is Shadowfall Mountain Encounter 2. So the object of the heroes here is to defeat Cadlisar, the dragon right here. The dragon doesn't start on the field, but in order to do that, they have to figure out which one of these 4 layers is the correct layer. The Overlord over there with that hidden token got to pick one of these colored doors. The heroes can go up to the doors, attack them. They have 10 health and 3 shield. Once they break open the layer, Cadlisar gets a lot less defense. Naturally, this dragon will go in and out every Overlord turn until they expose his lair. And then the Overlord can use these little champions, Etten, the Merrimod, and then the Elemental to pick up these little stone slabs right here to reinforce the doors for extra health. And the goal of the Overlord is for Cadlisar to defeat each of the heroes one time. Alright, the Overlord gets to start with some Barghest from the last encounter. They have Howl, which makes everyone lose stamina if they lose a check. They do a melee attack for red, blue, and yellow die, and they can surge for extra damage. Next up, the Overlord gets to control the Shadow Dragon, which is Cadsilar. It gets an extra 8 health because there's 4 heroes, so it has 18 health. It's going to attack with the blue die and 2 red dice for melee attack. It also gets to surge for a fire breath, as well as doing extra damage, and it has shadow, so if the heroes attack up close and they don't spend a surge, the attack is a miss. Next up is the Master Etten. It has a melee attack, attacks with a blue die and 2 red dice. It does have reach, so it can attack 2 spaces away. The champion one is the only one on the field. It's going to have 9 health. It can throw other heroes 3 spaces away, as well as surge for extra damage. Next up is going to be the Master Elemental. It has a range attack for a blue, yellow, and red die. It has 10 health, and then it has 4 different types of elemental abilities to use. The Overlord also gets a Merrimod champion. It has melee attack. It attacks with blue, red, and yellow die. It can flail, so it can attack 2 heroes at one time. It also has reach, so it can attack 2 spaces away. It can surge for immobilizing, so the heroes can't move, and then do a bunch of extra damage right there. The Overlord also has an extra Master Flesh Molder from the first encounter. It has a range attack. It gets to use a blue die and 2 yellow dice. It can heal itself with Surge, as well as other minions, and then it has 7 health. Last up, it has 1 measly minion regular Goblin Archer. It has a range attack. It uses a blue die and a yellow die. It can scamper, move past enemies, and it can use Surge to do extra range and extra damage. Next up, or first up for the heroes, is a Sharon. She still has 5 health on her from the first round. Her items are Leather Armor, Iron Shield, and Iron Spear. And then for skills, she has Stone Skin, Cloud of Mist, Healing Rain, and Drain Spirit. Next up is Shalara. She has 7 health still on her from the first encounter. For items, she has Scorpion Helm, Leather Armor, Sunburst, Mana Weave, and for skills, she has Runic Knowledge, Quick Casting, Iron Will, Exploding Rune, and her Bright Blaze Familiar. Next up is Grisban the Thirsty. He still has 16 health on him from the first encounter. For items, he has Lucky Charm, Chainmail, and Grinding Axe. And for skills, he has Weapon Mastery, Rage, Charge, and Brute. And then last up for the heroes is Tatiana. She has 8 damage on her from the first encounter. She has a Heavy Cloak, an Elm Great Bow for items. And then for skills, she has Accurate, First Strike, Danger Sense, and Nimble. First up is Grisban. He's going to spend 2 fatigue right here to do a charge right over here in this Barghest. So he gets to move 3 and do an attack. 1, 2, 3. He's going to use his Grinding Axe, and he gets a blue die and 2 red dice. The Barghest gets to roll a black defensive die, so let's see what happens. Grisban's trying to do 6 damage, so he has, let's lay this all out, 2, 4, 5 damage against 0 defense, but he's going to use Weapon Mastery right here to get 1 surge to add a damage, so that's 6 damage, enough to take out the first Barghest. Let's go ahead and remove this one from the field right there, and then for his second action, he's going to attack this Barghest also with his Grinding Axe. Alright, same thing, a blue die and 2 red dice against a black die, trying to do 6 damage, so let's line up everything right here. So it looks like there's going to be 7 damage and a surge against 2, so 5 damage is going through, but the surge is going to add a damage to do 6 damage to take out the second Barghest. Let's go ahead and remove the Barghest from the map, and that is the end of Grisban's turn. Next up is Shalara, but before she goes, she's going to move Bright Blaze up the 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4 right there to give Pierce 1 to any adjacent spot. She's then going to take a move action. She's going to go 1, 2 right here, and then she's going to spend 1 fatigue over here on Exploding Rune to attack this Goblin Archer and also the Flesh Molder. So she has to get a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 because she has Scorpion Helm. All right, she gets to roll a yellow die and a blue die with Sunburst, and it's going against a gray defensive die of the Goblin Archer first. All right, we end up doing 4 damage right here. So let's lay that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's trying to do 4 damage, but the Goblin got 1 defense. She's going to spend Mana Weave here to get a Surge to add 2 more damage. So it's 6 minus the 1, so 5 damage. The Goblin Archer gets defeated. Let's go ahead and take him off the map, and then let's roll the Flesh Molder's defensive dice. All right, the Flesh Molder gets a brown die and a gray die. Remember, the damage going through is 6. So let's go and see ahead what happens. So 3 defense go through, 3 damage goes through, 6 minus the 3. So the Flesh Molder receives 3 damage. Let's go ahead and place the 3 damage on the Flesh Molder as 7 health total. So that's the end of Shalara's turn. Next up is Tatiana. Her first action is to use her Elm Greatbow to do a range attack on this Flesh Molder over here. She needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 range, 6 because of her hero ability. All right, she gets a blue die and a yellow die and a gray die and a brown die. She's trying to do 4 damage left. Let's see if she gets the range. She does not, but hold on real quick. So it's 3 damage and a surge against the 1 defense right there. So she's going to spend the surge over here to get +2 range. So that's 6 range. So that's good. So 3 damage minus the 1. The Flesh Molder only takes 2 damage. Let's go ahead and place the 2 damage. So it's now taken 5 damage. On to the next action. For her second action, she's going to do the same attack. So remember, she needs to get 6 range against the gray die and the brown die. Let's see if she gets the range at first. She does not, but she does have this ability here. Let's lay these out. It's 2 damage and 3 shield so far. She's going to spend accurate to re-roll this. So let's see what she gets. She needs enough range. She does get enough range. Well, no, she does not because the surge is only 2 more. So that's the end of her second action. All right, last up is a Sharon. She's going to spend a fatigue to get a free move to go right up here. And then her next action is to spend a fatigue for Cloud of Mist right here. So anyone exhausts this, and then 1 fatigue. Anyone within 3 spaces of her, if they're hit with an attack, they have to spend a surge or else that attack becomes a miss. And then her second action is going to be to spend 2 fatigue right here for Healing Rain. So she gets to roll a red power die, and any hero within 3 gets to heal up. She moved up so that she can affect everyone. So let's go ahead and roll that. All right, everyone gets to heal up 2 health. All right, let's remove 2 from Tatiana right here, and then 2 from Grisband. So let's turn that into a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there, and then 2 from Shalara, and then 2 from a Sharon to go down to 3. So that's the end of the Healing Rain. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, all the heroes get to heal up 1. This is just part of the scenario. So Tatiana heals up 1, Grisband heals 1, a Sharon heals 1, and Shalara heals 1 as well. Also at the beginning of the turn, since Cadlasar is not on the map, he gets to get placed on the map. The Overlord's can choose right there, and then the Overlord draws its card for the turn, which is Critical Blow. Also at the start of the turn, the Overlord's going to spend Dark Charm on Grisband here. He has to do a willpower test of getting 3 or less on a black die and a gray die. Let's see what happens. He ends up passing the test, so the Overlord gets to draw another card instead, which they get Frenzy. First up, the Etten is going to go. He's going to move, but then interrupt his movement to use 1 movement point on this stone slab right here. And then he's going to interrupt his movement to use an action to reinforce this door. So we're going to put that right there. It has 3 more health. He's going to use his last movement to put this on his base, the other stone slab. And that's the end of the Etten's turn. Next up is the Myriad. It's going to use a movement action to use this corner right here. 1, 2, 3. And then to expand right here. And then it's going to move again. 1, 2, kind of go behind this door right here. And its third movement is to pick up the stone slab. And that's the end of the Myriad's turn. Last up is the Elemental. It's going to use its first movement point to grab this stone slab right here, interrupt its movement. I guess it can stay right there. And then its second action is to reinforce this door for an extra 3 health. So that's the end of the Elemental's turn. All right, next up is the Flesh Molder. It's going to do an attack in Grisband. It needs to get 1, 2, 3 range. And remember, it needs to spend a surge to get past the Cloud of Mist. It gets 2 yellow dice and a blue die against Grisband's 2 gray dice. So let's go ahead and see what rolls. We need to get 3 range. We got the range here, so let's go ahead and add everything up. So it looks like there's 5 damage and a surge against 5 defense, which is a good amount of defense. So we're going to spend the surge for another +3 damage. So that's going to be 8 minus the 5, so 3 damage goes through to Grisband. All right, let's go ahead and place that there. and then figure out the Flesh Molder's next action. I have to rewind a little bit because the Flesh Molder had to use a surge, so Cloud of Mist, or else its attack would have missed, and then it would have been 5 damage against 5 damage, or defense, so Grisband gets his health back. The Flesh Molder's second action is going to be to heal itself, so it rolls a red die, ends up healing 2 health. Let's go ahead and turn the 5 into a 3, and that's the end of the Flesh Molder's turn. Catalysar the dragon is going to go next. It's going to do an attack on Grisband here. It gets 1 blue die and 2 red dice. Grisband gets 2 gray dice. Let's see, he has, 5 health left. So let's see what rolls. It has to go in. All right, let's pull this all out. This is a lot of damage for Catalysar. So he's doing 6 damage and a surge. 7 damage and a surge and a defense right here. So it has to spend the surge for the Cloud of Mist, but that's still, 7 against 1. So 6 damage goes through to Grisband. He gets knocked out, so we have to do a couple of things. We're going to remove him from the map right there and then place his hero token on the spot where he got knocked out. The Overlord gets to collect 1 hero token for Grisband. Remember, the goal is for Catalysar to knock out each hero 1 time to win the scenario. And then the Overlord gets to get a threat token, and then we put Grisband's hero token here as a reminder they can only get that once per scenario. And we fill up Grisband's health and then fatigue all the way up to its maximum. And then for the second action, Catalysar is going to do a movement action. So it's going to go ahead and use this space. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and it's going to end up right over here. That's the end of its actions. All right, next up are the Barghests. This one right here, the master one's going to move. So it gets to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's going to expand right here. It's going to do its second action is Howl. So any of the heroes within range 3, which is all of them, have to test willpower. Each one that fails suffers a fatigue. So let's go ahead and start with Shalara first. All right, Shalara is trying to get a 3 or less on willpower. She ends up succeeding. Sharon also needs 3 or less on willpower test. It has to go in the castle. All right, she passes that one as well. Last up is Tatiana. She needs to get a 2 or less for her Howl test. She ends up failing, so she takes a fatigue. That's the end of the Master Barghest's turn, and now the regular minion is also going to do a Howl, which reaches 1, 2, 3, so everyone but Tatiana. All right, as Sharon needs to get a 3 or less in the Howl test. She ends up failing, so she takes a fatigue, but she's full in stamina, so she takes a damage instead. All right, next up is Shalara. She has a willpower of 3. She needs to get 3 or less. She ends up passing. Next up, this regular Barghest is going to attack Shalara. The Barghest gets to roll a red die and a blue die against Shalara's gray die and a brown die. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Let's pull this all out. So we're doing 5 damage against 2 defense. She has 6 life left, so she is only receiving 3 damage, and she's still good to go. Let's go ahead and place the 3 damage. So she'll be at 7 right there. That's the end of the Barghest's turn. At the end of the Overlord turn, they're going to play Word of Despair. So every hero has to test willpower. Each hero who fails has to suffer a fatigue at the end of each action after normal fatigue would be suffered. So if they're full up, they would start taking damage. Let's go ahead and roll the tests. First up is Tatiana. She needs to get a 2 or less. She fails, so we're going to go ahead and place a fatigue marker under her base to remind me that she has to spend fatigue for each action next turn. Next up is Shalara. She needs to roll 3 or less on her willpower test. She also fails, so I'll also put a fatigue marker under her base to remind me. Last up is a Sharon. She has to roll 3 or less for her willpower. She passes, so she's good to go next turn. I have to backtrack one more time because the Sharon had the Cloud of Mist on, and the Barghest that attacked Shalara did not have a surge to get rid of that effect. Shalara took no damage, so let's go ahead and swap that out real quick. All right, for the heroes, Shalara is going to go first, but before she goes, she's going to move Bright Blaze up here, 1, 2, to give Pierce to these 3. And then her first action is going to be using Sunburst to do a range attack on this Master Flesh Molder. She needs a 1, 2, 3, 4 range, 3 because of her Scorpion helmet, and then she has to spend a fatigue for Word of Despair to do the attack. It's a yellow die and a blue die against a gray die and a brown die. Remember, she needs 3 range. So let's see if she gets the range. She's good on the range. Let's bring this all out. So we have 2 damage. She's trying to do 4 more damage left against 2 shield. So she's trying to do 4 more damage. So let's go ahead and use the first surge up there for plus 2 damage. And then the second surge for this right here, Runic Knowledge. She'll suffer fatigue, but then she gets to do 2 more damage. So she's doing 6 damage on the 2 defense. She has Pierce 1, so 5 damage goes through and she knocks out the Flesh Molder. But she's also going to spend Mana Weave to get another Surge, to then use Iron Will, which allows her to recover 2 fatigue instead of 1. Let's go ahead and remove the Flesh Molder from the map. She then ends up recovering 1 fatigue total because she spent 1 but then recovered 2. For Shalara's second action, she's going to attack this Barghest right here with a yellow die and a blue die. She doesn't need range and it gets Pierce 1 because of Bright Blaze. Alright, a yellow die and a blue die against a black die. She's trying to do 6 damage. She ends up getting a miss, so that's the end of her action. She ends up suffering a fatigue for the Word of Despair for that action. Next up is Tatiana. She's going to spend 3 fatigue right here to get 3 free movement points, so it fills her up. So she's going to go 1, 2, 3. She still has Word of Despair affecting her. And then her first action is going to be to revive Grisband, so she gets to roll 2 red dice. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Alright, he also has Brute, so he gets to recover an additional 2 life. So he ends up healing up 5. So let's go ahead and heal that up and then put him back on the map. Alright, let's go ahead and put him right here. And then that was an action for Tatiana. So she's going to take a fatigue for Word of Despair. She's full up, so she takes a damage instead. And then her second action is to use the Elm Great Bow to attack this Barghest. She needs 1, 2, 3 range, 2 because of her hero ability. She gets a yellow die and a blue die against a black die, and then she also has Bright Blaze Pierce. She's trying to do 6 damage. She gets 2 damage and a Surge, and then there was no defense from the Barghest. She's going to spend Accurate to reroll this power die, so let's try to get more than just a Surge. We end up doing a damage, so it's actually slightly worse. So 3 damage go through to the Barghest. We're going to go ahead and place the 3 damage on the Barghest right there, and then Word of Despair still active, so she loses another health, and that's the end of Tatiana's turn. Next up is Grisband. His first action is going to attack the Master Barghest. He gets 2 red dice and a blue die against the Barghest black die. He's trying to do 8 damage, so let's see what he can roll right here. Let's go ahead and take all these out. 3, 4, 5. It looks like there's going to be 6. And then 3 defense, so that's not enough. But he's going to spend Weapon Mastery for a Surge for 1 more damage. So that's going to be a 7 against a 3. So 4 damage goes through to the Barghest. Let's go ahead and place the 4 damage right here. And then he's going to do the same action. He's going to attack the Master Barghest with the 2 red dice and a blue die against a black die. He just needs to do 4 damage. Let's see what rolls. It looks like this will probably be enough. Let's see if he can use extra unspent surges to remove fatigue. So he's doing 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is enough to take him out. So that's going to be 6 minus the 2 shield, so 4 damage. And then an unspent surge to remove 1 of his fatigues. Alright, we remove this Master Barghest, but then the Overlord is going to place Rise again right here. So we get to place a fatigue token where this monster died, and it basically gets 1 more turn during the Overlord's turn. Let's not forget to remove the fatigue from the unspent surge earlier. Last up is a Sharon. She's going to do a move action. She gets to move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. Her hero ability will give that a stun token, so it's going to waste 1 of its action. And then her second action is to rest. So at the end of her turn, she removes off all of her fatigue. Let's go ahead and remove all of this, and that's the end of the hero's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord's turn, all the heroes get to heal up 1. 1 for Tatiana, 1 for Grisband, 1 for Shalara, and 1 for Sharon. We get to place this Barghest for the 1 turn for the Rise again, right there. We also get to draw 1 more card, which is going to be Pit Trap. And last up at the beginning of the turn, because the layer is not exposed yet by the heroes, Catalysar goes off of the map. First up is the Etten. Its first action is to use this stone slab to reinforce this particular door again. And its second action is to move for 3. We're going to count from this space. So 1, 2, 3, and then expand right over here. And that's the end of the Etten's turn. Next up is the Myriad. It's going to use its first action to reinforce this door right here. So it gets 3 extra health. And its second action is to move. We're going to count from here. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then expand. Actually, it's going to go right over here to make sure that there's no Rune Blast from Shalara. All right, that's the end of Myriad's turn. All right, last up is the Elemental. It's going to move. It's going to go 1, and then use a movement point to grab this stone slab. So that's 2, and then 3 right here, and then expand right over here with this 1 stone slab. All right, that's the end of the Elemental's turn. All right, next up are the Barghest, but we're going to do the Master Barghest first, the one that got risen again. It's going to attack Tatiana. All right, the Barghest gets to roll a blue die, a red die, and a yellow die. And also Tatiana has a gray die and a heavy cloak to get rid of a surge. All right, let's see what happens. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull these out. It just looks like there's going to be 4 damage and no surge against 1 defense. So yeah, Tatiana ends up taking 3 hits. All right, let's go ahead and place the 3 damage right there. And then for its second action, the Barghest is going to do Howl, so everyone within range 3 has to test willpower. If they fail, they lose a fatigue. So let's go ahead and roll those. All right, Tatiana's willpower is 2, so she has to get a 2 or less. She ends up failing, so she's full in fatigue, so she has to take a damage instead. So let's go ahead and do that. She's at 10 damage. All right, next up is Grisbin. He has willpower of 3, so he has to get a 3 or less. Let's see what he ends up rolling. He's good. All right, moving along, Shalara needs to get 3 or less as well for her willpower. She passes that as well. Last up is a Sharon. Her willpower is 3, so 3 or less. She's good as well. Last up is this minion Barghest. It's going to attack Shalara. It gets a red die and a blue die against a gray die and a brown die. All right, let's see what it gets. Ends up getting 4 damage and a surge. Let's go ahead and think about this. We have critical blow. It's going to be 4 defense here. So far, only 2 damage would go through with the surge. We can do critical blow for 3 damage, but that seems to be a waste. So we'll go ahead and surge for 2 extra damage. So 2 damage goes through to Shalara. Let's go ahead and place the 2 damage. She's now at 5. All right, and then the second action for this minion Barghest is to Howl. So everyone's going to have to test willpower once more and lose a fatigue if they fail the roll. All right, Tatiana is first. She has a willpower of 2, so 2 or less, and then she's good. Grisbin is next. He has a willpower of 3, so he has to get 3 or less. He ends up failing, but he's going to use his lucky charm to get another roll. So let's go ahead and try to get 3 or less again. All right, he passes. Shalara is next. She has a willpower of 3, and then she passes that as well. Last up is a Sharon. She needs 3 or less. Oh, it has to go into the castle. Let's go ahead and roll this one. She ends up failing, so she takes a fatigue from the Howl. All right, at the end of the Overlord turn, we remove this Barghest that only came back for the Rise again. All right, next up is Shalara, but before she goes, she's going to use Bright Blaze to move 4, 1. Actually, she's going to move Bright Blaze after her turn. Her first thing is to attack this minion Barghest. She gets to roll a yellow die and a blue die against its black die. She's trying to do 6 damage, and she has Pierce 1 because of Bright Blaze. Let's see what she rolls. She ends up rolling 3 damage and a surge against 2 defense. So she's going to use her surge to add 2 damage. So that's going to be 5 against the 1, so that's 4. It's not enough, so she's going to spend Mana Weave to get another surge, and then to spend a fatigue with Runic Knowledge to do 2 more damage. So that's going to be 7 damage on the 6 because of the Pierce. So then, 7 damage against the 1 because of Pierce. So then 6 damage goes through, which is enough to take out the Barghest. Actually, real quick, I forgot I only had 3 health left, so we're going to just use the first surge for 2 damage. So that's 5 against the 1. So 4 goes through, which is enough to get rid of it. And then she's going to use the Mana Weave to use her Iron Will ability to recover 2 fatigue. Let's go ahead and recover the fatigue first, and then remove the Barghest from the map. Her next action, she's going to move, but then she's also going to spend a fatigue to get an extra movement. So she gets 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. So I'll place that in a second, and then Bright Blaze gets to move 4. It's going to go ahead 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. All right, let's add our fatigue. Go ahead and place that right there. That's the end of Shalara's turn. Next up is Tatiana. Her first action is to make a ranged attack against the Etten with her Elm Great Bow. She needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 range, 5 because of her hero ability. So let's go ahead and grab the dice. All right, it's a yellow die and a blue die against a black die and a gray die. She does get Pierce 1 from Bright Blaze. Remember, she needs 5 range. She does not get the range, but she can use a surge to get more range. So let's go ahead and pull this out. So it's 2 damage and a surge. She could use a reroll. Yeah, she'll go ahead and use the reroll. Let's see if she's good there. Remember, she still needs 5 range. She's accurate for that. She gets the 5 range, so it's going to be 3 damage against no defense because of Pierce, so 3 damage goes through. Let's go ahead and place the 3 damage on the Etten, and then she'll think about her second action. She's going to go ahead and do the same attack over there on the Etten, so the same dice. All right, same deal. She's trying to get 5 range. Let's see if we get that at first. All right, her attack ends up missing, and that's the end of Tatiana's turn. All right, last up is a Sharon. Her first action is to spend 2 fatigue to do healing rain. She's going to roll a red power die and heal all the heroes within range 3 based on the number of hearts. Let's go ahead and roll that. All right, let's see what she gets. Everyone's getting healed for 1. All right, so Tatiana heals for 1 right there. Grisman heals for 1. Shalara heals for 1. And then Sharon heals for 1. All right, let's go on to her next action. All right, and then her last action, she's going to spend a fatigue to exhaust Cloud of Mist. So any attack within range of 3 of her, the unit has to spend a surge or else the attack is a miss. All right, that's the end of the hero's turn. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord's turn for the scenario, everyone heals up 1 or all the heroes. So that's 1 from all of them. Let's go ahead and place that 5 down to a 4. And then, all right, and then the Overlord gets to draw another card. They end up getting Dark Fortune right there for a reroll. And then Catalysar gets to go back onto the map. The Overlord's going to choose this spot right here. Let's go ahead and continue on to the turn. All right, first up is the Elemental. It's going to do a movement action. It's going to do a movement action. It's going to go ahead and move 1 right here and expand, interrupt its movement to place the stone slab underneath the door to reinforce it for an extra 3 health. And then it has 2 more movement left. It's just going to pick this one up and then move right over here. Actually, it'll stay right here. All right, so that's the end of the Elemental's turn. Next up, Catalysar is going to attack Tatiana right here. Catalysar gets 1 blue die and 2 red dice, and then Tatiana gets a gray die and then also has the heavy cloak, and then she can get rid of the surge there. And don't forget, we need to spend a surge so the attack doesn't miss because of Cloud of Mist. All right, let's go ahead and see what we get for Catalysar. No surges right here, so we're going to think if we want to use a reroll or not. Let's go ahead and think about it. Probably not, because we're just going to go ahead and use the second action. Let me think about it. All right, so that attack was just a miss. We're going to go ahead and use Frenzy, so this Catalysar can get another attack. We're going to go ahead and switch gears because the Heavy Cloak and Cloud of Mist is going to be hard to get through with 2 surges. So we're going to go ahead and attack a Sharon right here. A Sharon gets a brown die and a gray die, and she also has Iron Shield. All right, let's see what we roll. A Sharon still has 7 life left. We still have to get a surge or else the attack is a miss. This is pretty rough because there is no surge. It is a lot of damage going through, but there's also a lot of defense. So we could use a reroll. Let's think about it for the Overlord real quick. The Overlord's going to play it safe and not try to rush down the heroes. He could use the reroll on this that has 2 sides to get a surge effect right there, but it's just not enough damage to make it worth it. So we're going to go ahead on to the Catalysar's last action. Catalysar is going to move. He's just going to get out of the way. He's going to go right over here, and that's the end of his turn. All right, next up is the Myriad. This one's going to move. It's going to pick this space to move from 1, 2, 3, and then expand right here. And then it has Flail and Reach, so it can attack 2 heroes. So it's going to attack Shalara and Grisman. Let's go ahead and get the dice. All right, it's a yellow, red, and a blue, and then we'll roll for Shalara first with a gray and a brown. Remember, we still have Cloud of Mist, so we have to spend a surge or else the whole attack is a miss right there. Ooh, this is really good for the Myriad. Shalara gets no defense, so this is going to be pretty rough, and we get 2 surges. So let's go ahead, and then the first surge is for Cloud of Mist, and then the second surge, we can either do Immobilize or more damage. Let me think about it real quick. All right, we thought about it real quick. If we do 3 more damage, that's going to knock out Shalara, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, she does not get knocked out because she has 1 more health, so she ends up taking 7. She still has 1 left because of the leather armor, so let's go ahead and place that there. And then we have to roll all of that damage onto Grisman. Let's go ahead and roll his defensive dice. I was wrong once again. It was actually 8 damage, not 7. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with the surge. So she does get knocked out. So let's go ahead and fill up her health and then her fatigue to the maximum. She gets all the way up to 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go ahead and remove her hero miniature from the map and then put the token right there. Then the Overlord gets another threat token, and then they grab a hero token of Shalara so they can't grab another threat one within this encounter. All right, now Grisman from the flail attack for the 8 damage gets to roll 2 gray dice. Let's see what he gets. He ends up getting 4 defense, so 4 damage goes through to Grisman. All right, we're going to place the 4 right there, and that's the end of the Myriad's turn and attack. Next up is the Etten. It's going to use a movement. It's going to use this spot right here. It's going to go 1, 2, interrupt its movement to expand right here, and then to attack a Sharon. It gets a blue die and 2 red dice. A Sharon gets a gray die and a brown die and has Iron Shield. All right, let's see what it rolls. Try and do 7 damage total to knock out a Sharon. This is actually pretty good for the Etten. It has 5 damage and a surge. Sharon's going to exhaust Iron Shield to get a reroll right here on the gray die. Ends up getting 2 defense, which is pretty good. So we're doing 5 against 2, so that is 3 damage going through. We do have to use the Surge, I forgot, for the Cloud of Mist. So yeah, 3 damage goes through to a Sharon. All right, let's go ahead and do the 3 damage. And then the Etten gets to continue its movement with 1 more space. All right, it's going to pick itself up. It was this spot. It's going to go right over here and then expand right up over here. All right, that's the end of the Overlord's turn. All right, at the beginning of the hero's turn, Sharon's going to use a revive action over here in Shalara, so it gets to roll 2 red dice and then see how much she heals. All right, let's see how much it goes. That is 5 health. Let's go ahead and remove the 5 health and then put her back on the map. All right, she's going to go right there, and then Sharon's second action is to just rest for the turn, which removes all of her fatigue. All right, that's the end of Sharon's turn. All right, next up is Grisban. He's going to use 1 fatigue to move right here. And then his first action is to attack the Myriad. He gets 2 red die and 1 blue die against the black die. He gets 2 red dice and 1 blue die with Pierce 1 from Bright Blaze. And then the Myriad gets 2 gray defensive dice. Let's go ahead and see what rolls. Oop, ends up being a miss. So we're going to go ahead and use his second action to redo that whole attack. So let's go ahead and do that again. Same dice. Same deal. Let's try and do 9 damage. All right, has to go in there, but that's another miss. All right, we're going to use his heroic feat to do another attack. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. We go ahead and flip his character sheet and then roll 1 more time. All right, let's see if he doesn't get a miss again. All right, finally he hits. So let's go ahead and pull all of these out. So it's doing 5 damage against 1 defense. Well, there's Pierce 1, so that doesn't matter. You can use Weapon Mastery to get 1 more surge for 1 more damage. So 6 damage goes through to the Myriad. Let's go ahead and place this 6 damage right here. That's the end of Grisban's turn. All right, next up is Shalara. She's going to attack with a Sunburst onto the Myriad. She gets a yellow die and a blue die. She needs 2 range, and it gets 2 gray defensive dice. All right, it's just trying to get 3 damage through, so let's see what she gets. Oh, I rolled the wrong dice. Give me a second. It's a yellow die and a blue die. All right, there you go. We have 3 damage going through. Well, 3 damage and Pierce 1 against the 4 shield. So it's 3 against 3 so far. We're going to spend a Surge right here to do 2 damage total. Let's go ahead and place the 2 damage on the Myriad right there. And then Shalara's second action is to rest. All right, so let's remove all of her fatigue right there. That's the end of her turn. All right, last up for the heroes is Tatiana. She's going to take a shot at the Myriad with her Elm Great Bow. She needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 range because of her hero ability. It's going to be a yellow die and a blue die with the Pierce 1 because of Bright Blaze against 2 gray defensive dice. Let's go ahead and see if we get the range. 5. All right, we're going to have to spend a Surge for range. So let's go ahead and do that. We're just trying to do 1 damage. So we have the damage. So we're doing 3 damage. Spend the Surge for 2 more range, so that's good there. So that takes out the Myriad. Let's go ahead and remove that from the map right there and think about the second action. All right, the last action for Tatiana is to move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the end of the hero's turn. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, Cadlasar's layer is not exposed, so it gets removed from the map for now. Also, at the beginning of the turn, all the heroes heal 1 health. So Tatiana, Grisban, Shalara, and Sharon. Overlord then also gets to draw a card, which ends up being Dark Might. And last up, we get to place a regular Myriad at the entrance. All right, first up, the Overlord's going to use the Myriad. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then expand right over here. It's then going to attack a Sharon. A Sharon's going to spend a Fatigue and Stone Skin to get an extra gray die. All right, the Myriad gets a blue, red, and yellow die against the 2 gray dice and the Iron Shield. Let's go ahead and see what rolls. This is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add all these up. This is just the regular minion, so we're going to use the stats up there. So it's going to be 4 damage and 2 surges against 2 defense. So far, 2 damages going through. 1 more surge is 4 damage going through. So she will have 1 life left. But then if we use Dark Might on the other surge, sorry, not Dark Might, Critical Blow, we have another 3. I guess Sharon's going to have to re-roll a die. Let's see what happens. Gets a 0. So let's add all of this up. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, -1. A Sharon gets knocked out. All right, let's fill her up on health and fatigue right there, and then remove her figure from the map. Let's go ahead and grab that right there. We're going to go ahead and put her hero token right there. We're then going to add a threat token for the first time taking out a Sharon. That's the end of the Myriad's turn. Next up is the Etten. It's going to attack Grisbin. It gets 2 red dice and a blue die, and Grisbin gets 2 gray dice. All right, let's roll the dice. The Etten's trying to do 5 damage total. Let's see right here what it gets. It got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on 4 defense right here. So 3 damage goes through. All right, so let's exchange those 2 for a 5, and let's go on to the second action. Okay, for the second action, the Etten's going to run away. It's going to use this spot. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and it's going to expand right over there. And that's the end of the Etten's turn. All right, next up is the Elemental. Its first action is to reinforce this door right here to give it 3 more health. So let's place that underneath there. And then second action is to go... It actually might want to stay there. Let me think about this. Actually, its second action is to take a ranged attack. So it's a long shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 range on Grisbin. It gets a red, yellow, and blue die, and he gets 2 gray dice. All right, remember we need 6 range, so let's see if that happens first. We got the range, so let's go ahead and add all of the damage up. There are no surges for these abilities. They're just spells that weren't useful right now. So it's going to be 2, 4, 5 damage minus 3 shields. So 2 damage is going through. Grisbin's 15, 16. That is going to take out Grisbin, so he's knocked out. Let's go ahead and fill up his health and fatigue. Let's go ahead and remove him from the map and then place him with the hero token right there. And then the Overlord already got a threat counter, so they get to draw a new card and they get tripwire. All right, that's the end of the Overlord's turn. All right, at the beginning of the hero's turn, Shalara is going to go first. She's going to revive a Sharon right here, so we're going to roll 2 red dice. All right, let's see how much a Sharon heals up. She ends up, has to go into the castle. She heals up 4 health. All right, we're going to exchange the 5 for 1 and place her back on the map. All right, let's go ahead and put her right there. And then Shalara's second action, well, she's actually going to spend 2 fatigue to get 2 movement. 1, 2. Let's go ahead and spend that. Let's go ahead and place the 2 fatigue for that. All right, her second action is to search, so she's going to go ahead and grab that, and then she ends up getting a health potion, which is pretty good. But then the Overlord's going to do Poison Dart. She's going to have to test awareness. If she fails, she suffers a damage, fatigue, and is poisoned. Let's go ahead and roll that. All right, she needs to get 1 or less for her awareness, or else she fails. She ends up failing, so like I said, she takes a damage. She also gets a fatigue, and then she's poisoned. So she'll have to test strength at the beginning of her turn or lose health. All right, that's the end of Shalara's turn. At the end of Shalara's turn, Brave Blaze is going to move forward. 1, 2, 3, just right there. All right, now that's the end of Brave Blaze's turn. All right, next up is a Sharon. She's going to do a movement action. 1, 2, 3, 4, interrupt her movement action to do a search action. So she's going to grab that right there. And she ends up getting a treasure chest. Sorry, right there. Immediately discard this card to draw 1 random chop item card from the current axe deck. Let's go ahead and see what we get. She ends up getting Demon Hide Leather here. When you perform 2 move actions on your turn, suffer 1 fatigue at the end of your turn, but it's another gray die. She can't equip this until the start of her next turn. All right, with her last movement, she's going to go right there, and that's the end of Sharon's turn. All right, next up is Tatiana. Her first action is to attack the Etten. She needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 range. She gets a yellow die and a blue die with her Elm Great Bow. She gets Pierce 1 because of Bright Blaze. She's trying to do 6 damage. Let's go ahead and see if we get the range. We don't. We're going to go ahead and use a reroll in just a second. So that's 4 defense for the Etten. We're going to use Accurate to reroll this power die. Just trying to get more range. Oh, has to go into the castle. 1 more time. All right, let's see if we can actually get enough. So that's 3. A surge would be 4 or 5. Let me do the math again. Is enough with her hero ability. She needed 6, but her hero ability allows it to go to 5. Remember, she's trying to do 6 damage. So yeah, surge for +2 range and another surge for +2 damage. So we're doing 4 damage on the 3. So only 1 damage is going to go through. Let's go ahead and place the damage right there on the Etten and think about the second action. The second action is to revive up Grisbin, so we're going to roll 2 red dice, and then Grisbin has Brute, so he gets to heal an extra 2. All right, let's see how much he heals up. He gets to heal 4 total. Let's go ahead and remove that 5, put a 1 there, and then put him back on the field. All right, he's going to go back right over here, and that's the end of Tatiana's turn. All right, Grisman's going to go next. He's going to move, and while he's moving, he's going to trade up for the healing potion as he passes Shalara. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3 right up there. And then his second action is to flip this over and to heal up everything. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so that removes all of his damage, and that's the end of Grisman's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord turn for this scenario, all the heroes heal up 1. So Tatiana, Shalara, and a Sharon right there. We go ahead and draw an Overlord card, which is Rise Again, which is going to be really good. And then Cadlasar goes back on the map right over here. All right. First up, the Elemental is going to do a ranged attack on Sharon. It needs to get 1, 2, 3, 4 range. It gets a yellow die, a red die, and a blue die. She gets a gray die and a brown die, and it has Iron Shield. All right, let's see if we get the 4 range. Oh, it has to go into the castle, but I see a miss there. We can end up using a reroll, but then we won't have enough range, so we'll just call it a pass. And then for the second action, we will use Air. So none of the heroes can target the Elemental until its next turn, unless if they're adjacent to it. So that's the end of the Elemental's turn. Next up is the Myriad. It's going to attack Tatiana. It gets a yellow die, a blue die, and a red die. And then she gets a gray die and has the heavy cloak. All right, let's see what gets rolled right here. This is a lot of damage. We're ended up doing 2, 5, 6 damage and 2 surges. She can use this to get rid of 1 surge. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that enough to take her out right now? Let's see, that would bring her to... Yeah, she is enough. That is enough to take her out. We're going to fill up her health and stamina right there, and then remove her from the map. We remove her figure from the map and then put a hero token right there. We then go ahead and add the hero token and threat right there, because they can only get 1 per hero per encounter. And then next up, the Myriad's going to move right up over here. 1, 2, 3, and expand. That's the end of the Myriad's turn. All right, next up is Cadlasar. It's going to attack a Sharon with 2 red dice and a blue die. She gets a gray die and a brown die and has Iron Shield. All right, the Overlord really wants to do 5 damage here, so let's go ahead and roll all of this. Oh, this is looking pretty good for the Overlord. Cadlasar is doing 5 damage and a surge right there. These are both blanks. But that's going to end up doing 4 damage if she uses that, but then the surge will take her out. So she has to use the Iron Shield to reroll a gray die. She ends up getting a 1, but then Cadlasar is going to... Let me think about it real quick. The Fire Breath might be useful. All right, I thought about it real quick. So we're going to spend the surge for 3 more damage. So that's going to be 8 damage minus the 1. So 7 damage for a Sharon. She's going to get taken out. But also, the Overlord's going to use Dark Might right here, which allows them to get another surge to do Fire Breath, so that 8 damage is going to carry over. We have to go ahead and do that on the map real quick. So the Fire Breath allows us to take the starting spot and do 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. So now Shalara is affected. 4, Grisman safe. So we also have to roll for Shalara, but let's go ahead and knock out Sharon first. All right, let's go ahead and fill up her health to 11. And then remember, the Overlord wants Cadlasar to kill each of the heroes once. So we're going to put her hero token in the bin. It's halfway towards its goal. And then we already got a threat counter, so the Overlord goes ahead and draws an Overlord card, which is Dash. Let's go ahead and remove her figure from the map and then put the hero token right there, and then let's roll for Shalara's defense. Remember, we are doing 8 damage still with the Fire Breath, so she gets to roll a brown die and a gray die. She has 6 health left, so this might be good. So 8 minus 3, she's only going to take 5, so she survives with just 1 health left. Let's go ahead and place the 5 right there, and then do the Cadlasar's second action. Cadlasar is just going to move away from the heroes. It's going to use this spot. 1, 2, I guess I can't go into there. I guess right there, and then expand. All right, that's the end of Cadlasar's turn. All right, last up is the Etten. It's going to move right here. It's going to use this spot. 1, 2, I guess 3 right here and expand. And then it has reach, so it's going to attack Shalara with a 2 red die, a blue die against her gray die and brown die. All right, all it needs to do is do 1 damage. So let's go ahead and roll all of this. It has to go into the bin, and it's not getting into the bin. Right, there you go, into the castle. Let's see if we have enough damage. It looks like 3, 4, 5, 6 damage against 5 shields. There's definitely surges. So let's add 2 more damage. That's enough to take out Shalara. Let's go ahead and fill up her health and stamina right there. I guess the upside is poison goes away. We remove her figure from the map right there and place a hero token, and the Overlord gets to draw a new card. They end up getting Word of Misery. All right, that's the end of the Overlord's turn. All right, first up for the heroes, Grisban's going to do a move action, go 1 right here, interrupt his movement to revive Shalara right here with 2 red dice. All right, let's see how much we heal. She heals up 3 health, so let's go ahead and do that. Bring down the 5 down to a 2, and then put her back onto the map. She's going to go back over here, and then Grisban has 2 movement left, so he's going to go 1, 2 right there. That's the end of Grisban's turn. All right, next up is Shalara. She's going to attack the Etten. She gets a yellow die and a blue die. It gets a black die and a gray die. But before she does that, she's going to move Bright Blaze 1 right over here. All right, let's go ahead and roll the dice. All right, she's trying to do 5 damage. Remember, she has Pierce 1. Let's go ahead and see what happens. We have 2 damage and a surge. And then we have 2 defense, so 1 defense. So the first surge will add 2 damage right there. So that's going to be 4 damage against 1. So 3 damage is going to go through, which is not enough, but she's going to use Mana Weave to use Iron Will to recover 2 fatigue. So let's go ahead and do all of that. So we're going to remove the 2 fatigue right here and then do the 3 damage. So exchange these 2 for a 5 because she did the 3 damage. It has 2 life left. And then she's going to use her ability. She's going to spend 2 fatigue on quick casting to get another free attack, and then she's going to attack the Etten again, and she'll still have 1 more action. It's a yellow die and a blue die. She doesn't have the Mana Weave anymore against the black die and the gray die. She's trying to do 2 damage. She still has Bright Blaze for Pierce 1. So like I said, she's trying to do 2 damage. So that's 4 damage against the 3 defense. With the Pierce, that is 2 damage, so the Etten goes down. But the Overlord's going to use this card, Rise Again, to place a fatigue there, and then they'll get another action with the Etten next turn. So let's go ahead and do all of that. All right, let's go ahead and remove the Etten from the field, but then put a marker as a reminder for Rise Again right there. Shalara, with her last action, is going to use her Heroic Feat, so she's going to go ahead and move Bright Blaze right over here and take an attack on the minion Myriad. So let's go ahead and flip her sheet. So we flip that over there and then go on to the attack. She has a yellow die and a blue die against 2 gray defensive dice. She doesn't have to worry about range. She has Pierce 1 from Bright Blaze, has to go into the castle. All right, let's go ahead and count all of that up. We have 3 damage and a surge against 3 defense, so that's unfortunate. Well, that one goes away because of the Pierce. We're going to use the surge for 2 more damage, so 5 against the 2, 3 damage go through. All right, let's place the 3 damage right there, and that's the end of Shalara's turn. All right, next up is Tatiana right here. She's going to do a stand-up action and roll 2 red dice. Let's see how much she heals up. She gets to heal up 6 health and 1 fatigue, and then we are going to bring her back to the map, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to remove her hero token right here. Then she has to go to an adjacent spot because it's covered. She's going to choose this spot, and then her turn's over. Last up is a Sharon over here. She's going to do a stand-up action and roll 2 red dice. All right, let's go ahead and see how much she heals up. She heals up 5 health. Let's go ahead and take that away and then bring her back to the map. All right, we remove her token right there and then place her right there, and that's the end of a Sharon's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord turn, each of the heroes recover 1 health, so 1 for Tatiana, 1 for Shalara, and 1 for Sharon. That's scenario rule. We place the Rise Again Etten within 5 spaces of the fatigue counter. I guess right here is a good spot. There you go. Actually, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. Sorry. Right next to Tatiana over here. We get to spawn a regular minion at Etten at the entrance right there. Cadlasar's lair is not revealed yet, so this goes off the map for this round. And then we draw a new card for the turn. We end up getting Pit Trap right there. All right. The Overlord's also going to play Word of Mystery at the start of their turn, so each time hero suffers any damage, they also suffer a fatigue in addition. All right, for the up first are the Ettens. The Master One's going to go ahead and attack Tatiana right there. It gets 1 blue die, 2 red die, and then she gets a gray die, and it has her cloak. So let's go ahead and roll that. It has to go into the castle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull all of this out. We also have Word of Misery up. So we're doing, looks like 4 damage total. The heavy cloak doesn't matter. 4 damage plus a fatigue. All right, let's go ahead and place the 4 damage and fatigue right there and then move on to the second action. It's going to do a move action, just go 1, 2, 3, just get out of the way. And then the regular one's going to go ahead and use this spot to move. 1, 2, 3, expand. It's going to also attack Tatiana with reach. Everything's the same except for the surge is slightly less damage. Let's go ahead and roll that. Looks like a lot of damage is going through and there's no surges, so the heavy cloak doesn't matter. So we're doing 6 damage minus 3, which is enough to do 3 damage and take Tatiana out. Let's go ahead and fill up her health and stamina right there and remove her figure from the map. Right, we remove her figure from right there, put the hero token, and then the Overlord gets to draw another card. They end up getting Word of Despair. All right, that's the end of the Ettin's turn. All right, next up is the Myriad. It's going to attack Shalara right here. It gets a yellow die, a blue die, and a red die, and she gets a gray die and a brown die. All right, it's trying to do 4 damage, so let's see what it gets. Looking pretty good right here. So we have 4 damage and a surge with the and then 1 defense for Shalara. With the surge, we're going to add 2 more damage, so that's 6 minus 1, so 5 damage and a fatigue loss go through. That's enough to take out Shalara. We go ahead and fill up her health and stamina, and then remove her from the map. All right, we replace her figure right here with the hero token, and then the Overlord gets to get another card. It ends up being Frenzy. All right, next up, the Myriad's going to move. It's going to go ahead and use this space, 1, 2, 3, and then go right up over here. So that's the end of the Myriad's turn. All right, last up is the Master Elemental. It's going to attack a Sharon. It needs 1, 2, 3, 4. It gets a yellow, red, and blue die. She gets 2 gray die and has an iron shield. All right, the Elemental is trying to get the range first, which is 5, I believe. All right, got the range. So let's go ahead and add up all the damage. I have to put it up here. 1, 2 damage and a surge, and then there's 2 defense. The shield is actually going to be a 3rd defense, and then the surge doesn't do anything, so there's no damage that gets dealt. We're going to go ahead and not waste an iron shield just in case. Let's undo that. For its second action, the elemental is going to use air, so the heroes can't target it unless if they're adjacent to the elemental. All right, at the end of the Overlord turn, the Rise Again Ettin goes away. All right, at the beginning of the hero's turn, Grisben's going to go first. He's going to move 1 right here, and then his movement gets interrupted by Tripwire from the Overlord. He's going to have to test awareness. If he fails, he ends his movement action. Let's go ahead and roll that. His awareness is 1, so he has to get a 1 or less. He ends up failing. He's going to use his Lucky Charm here to roll again. So let's go ahead and roll that attribute test again to see if his movement ends. He fails again, so that's the end of his movement. All right, his second action is to move adjacent to this door right here, so the next turn he can start attacking it and hopefully reveal the lair. All right, Sharon's going to go next. She's going to move 1, interrupt her movement to then revive Shalara here with 2 red dice. All right, let's go ahead and roll the 2 red dice. She ends up healing for 3 health, so let's go ahead and remove that 5 there and then add on a 2 and bring her back to the map. All right, she's going to go back right over here, and then Sharon still has 4 movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, right up over there, and that's the end of Sharon's turn. Next up is Shalara's turn, but before she goes, she's going to move Bright Blaze 1 up here, and then she's going to go ahead and attack the Myriad. She gets a yellow die and a blue die against its 2 gray dice. All right, she's trying to do 4 damage, so let's go ahead and roll this. She also has Pierce 1. Let's go ahead, has to go into the castle. That's unfortunate. That ends up being a miss. She's going to go ahead and use her second action to do the same attack all over again, so same dice, same everything. All right, let's see what she gets. All right, we have to throw this into the castle. Sorry, we're dropping everything. All right, so yeah, this is going to not do any damage because it's, well, hold on, actually. It's 3 damage and then 4 shields. We'll pierce 1, so that takes care of that. We're going to use Mana Weave to do 2 more damage. So that's going to be 5 damage on 3, so 2 damage go through. Let's go ahead and exchange the 3 for a 5. This one's being tough for them. All right, that's the end of Shalara's turn. Last up is Tatiana here. She's going to do a stand-up action with 2 red dice. All right, let's see what she gets. She ends up healing 4 health, so let's go ahead and take that 5 down to a 1 and put her back on the map. All right, we're going to go ahead and put her figure right there, and that's the end of the hero's turn. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, each of the heroes heal up 1 health, so Tatiana heals 1, Shalara heals 1, and Sharon heals 1 as well. The Overlord draws a card. They end up getting Dash. And Cadlasar goes back in the map. We're going to go ahead and put him right here. Actually, I'm going to move it back just 1 space right here. All right, and then Cadlasar is going to go first. He's going to attack Shalara. He gets to roll 1 blue die and 2 red die against her gray die and a brown die. All right, he's trying to do 4 damage. So let's go ahead and roll everything. We got 5 damage and then no surges, unfortunately. So 5 damage. And then 1 defense. So 4 damage goes through, which is enough to take out Shalara. So we're going to fill up her health and stamina right there. And then also, The Overlord killed Shalara, so they're going to go ahead and get one more hero token. If they take out Tatiana, they win the scenario. They also get to draw an Overlord card. They get Dark Charm. We remove the hero from the map and put the hero token right there. We're going to go ahead and play Frenzy to do an attack onto Tatiana. It is, again, the blue die, 2 red die against her gray die and her heavy cloak. All right, the dragon is trying to do 5 damage, so let's see what happens. We end up getting no surges once again, so it's going to be 5 damage minus 2, so 3 damage goes through. All right, let's go ahead and put the 3 damage, and that's the end of Cadlasar's turn. Actually, I'm going to have him do a move action. He's going to go ahead and go this. He's going to use this spot. He gets to go 3. 1, 2, 3. He's just going to hide over here. This is just in case if they find the lair, they have to go to him to attack him and take him out, because that's the hero's goal. Next up is the Etten. It's going to attack Tatiana with Reach. It gets to roll a red die, 2 red die and a blue die against her gray die and the heavy cloak. All right, the Etten's looking to do 2 damage. Let's go ahead and see what happens. This is definitely going to be more than enough. Still no surge again, so the cloak does nothing. But it's going to be 7 damage minus 2, so 5 damage goes through, and Tatiana gets KO'd. Let's go up and fill up her health right there, and then draw an Overlord card. It's Frenzy. Let's go ahead and remove her figure from the map, and then put a token there. And then the Etten can go ahead and move. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and expand right here. That's the end of the Etten's turn. All right, next up is the Myriad. It's going to attack a Sharon with a yellow die, a blue die, and a red die, and she gets 2 gray die. All right, I forgot to mention it, but the Myriad started next to a Sharon, so her hero ability gives it stunned, but it can use its first action to get rid of stun and then do the attack. So let's go ahead and roll everything. We got a lot of damage here, so it's 6 damage and 1 surge. And we're going to go ahead and use the shield to re-roll this gray die for a Sharon. All right, so that's 2 defense. It's going to use its surge for 2 more damage, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8 minus 2. She takes 6 damage and gets knocked out. All right, we fill her health all the way up and her stamina, and then the Overlord draws another card. They get Rise again. All right, we remove her figure from the map and place the hero token right here. That's the end of the Myriad's turn. All right, last up is the Elemental. It's going to go ahead and move. It's going to use this spot. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then expand right here. And then the Overlord's going to use a dash card to go ahead and move again. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, expand right here. And then its second action is to use a ranged attack on Grisban. It gets a yellow die, a red die, and a blue die. It gets to get 3 range. Grisban gets 2 gray dice. All right, let's see what we get right here. Remember, we needed 3 range. We got the range. So we're going to do, it looks like there's 5 damage against 2 defense. So then 3 damage goes through to Grisban. All right, let's put the 3 damage right there, and that's the end of the Overlord's turn. All right, at the beginning of the turn, Grisban's going to attack this door with his grinding axe. He gets 2 red die and a blue die, and the door always has 3 shields. All right, the door has 13 health right now, so let's see what we get. We end up getting, 5 damage and a surge. We're going to spend Weapon Mastery to get another surge, so it's another 5 damage. So it's 10 damage minus the 3, it takes 7 damage. Let's go ahead and place this 7 damage, and then let's go ahead and do another attack. The door automatically gets 3 defense, and we're trying to do 6 damage total. All right, into the castle. It ends up being a miss. That's the end of Grisban's turn. Next up is Sharon right here. She's going to do a stand-up action and roll 2 red dice. All right, she ends up getting 3 health. Let's go ahead and heal her 3 and then put her back on the map. All right, she's going to go right over there, and that's the end of her turn. And then next up, we're going to have Shalara also do a stand-up action with 2 red dice. All right, let's see what she gets. She ends up healing 5 health and 1 fatigue, and then she goes back to the map. Let's go ahead and put her right here, and that's the end of Shalara's turn. Last up is Tatiana. She's also going to do a stand-up action with 2 red dice. All right, let's go ahead and roll the 2 dice. She ends up healing 5 health right there, and then she goes back to the map. All right, let's remove the token and put her right here. That's the end of the hero's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord's turn, each hero heals up 1. So Tatiana heals up 1, Grisban heals up 1, Shalara heals 1, and Sharon heals 1 as well. Cadlasar's lair is not exposed, so he also gets set aside for this round. And last up, we draw an Overlord card, which ends up being Critical Blow. Also, at the beginning of the turn, we're going to use Dark Charm on Grisban. He's going to have to pass a willpower test. Let's go ahead and roll that. He's trying to get a 3 or less with willpower, so let's go ahead and see what happens. He fails. He's going to use Lucky Charm to roll again. He's looking for 3 or less. He fails again, so the Overlord gets to do a move action or an attack action with him. He's actually going to use Grisban to attack himself, so let me get that all set up. It's going to be his blue die and 2 red dice against his 2 gray dice, so let's see what he gets. Oh, this is really good for him when it's not him. So it's 6, 7 damage and 3 surges with 2 shields. So the 3 surges are going to add 6 damage. So 6, 9, 12, 13, minus 2. Grisban takes 11 damage from himself. So let's go ahead and place that on him and then proceed to the Overlord's turn. First up, the Elemental is going to attack Grisban at range 3. 1, 2, 3. It gets a yellow die, a blue die, and a red die, and Grisban gets 2 gray dice. All right, the Elemental is trying to do 5 damage right here. So also needs to get 3 range, needs to go into the bin, castle. All right, that is good. The range is definitely good. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5 damage minus 2. The surges do nothing on the Elemental. So then 3 damage goes through. All right, let's go ahead and place the 3 damage and go on to the Elemental's next action. All right, next up, this Elemental is going to use its water action. So any hero adjacent to it has to test willpower. If they fail, they lose 2 stamina. All right, as Sharon's willpower is 3, she's trying to get 3 or less. She ends up passing. All right, next up, the Myriad's going to attack Shalara with Reach. It's going to roll a yellow die, a red die, and a blue die, and she gets a gray die and a brown die. It's trying to do 6 damage. Let's see what it rolls. All right, we end up doing 1, 2, 3, 4 damage, minus 3 defense here, so Shalara takes 1 damage. Let's go ahead and place the damage right there. All right, the Myriad's going to stay there because it's blocking the good pathway into there, so it ends its turn. And then the Etin's going to go next. It's going to attack Shalara. She gets a brown die and a gray die, and it gets a blue die and 2 red dice. All right, it's trying to do 5 damage, so let's see what it rolls. It ends up missing. Let me think about this real quick. All right, the Overlord's going to use Dark Fortune to re-roll the miss, so let's go ahead and give it a jiggle, and down the castle it goes. All right, so we end up hitting. So let's go ahead and add up all the damage. 3, 6, 7, minus the 1. So she takes 6 damage and Shalara gets knocked out. Let's go ahead and fill up her health right here. And then the Overlord gets to draw a card. They end up getting Word of Misery. All right, we remove her figure from the board and place the hero token. And that's the end of the Etin's turn. All right, before the Overlord's done, they're going to use Dark Resilience and the Myriad there. It's going to roll 2 red dice and heal up that much health on it. All right, let's see how much it heals up. Ends up healing up 6 health, which is all the way full. All right, let's go ahead and remove that. And that's the end of the Overlord's turn. At the end of the Overlord's turn, they're going to play Word of Despair. So all the heroes that are up right now are going to have to test willpower. And for each one who fails, they suffer fatigue each time after they do an action this next turn. All right, Tatiana's trying to get a 2 or less. She ends up passing. Grisban has to get 3 or less. He ends up failing. And then Asherin has to get 3 or less as well. She ends up passing. First up is Grisban. He's going to attack the door, and afterward, he's going to take a fatigue for Word of Despair. He gets to roll a blue die and 2 red dice, and then the door always gets 3 shield. All right, he's trying to do 6 damage total. Give me a second. That has to go into the castle. Dropped it again. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 damage and a surge, 2 surges to add another 5. So that's going to be 9 minus the 3. So 6 damage takes out the door. All right. All right, so we remove this door from the map. That was the stone slab that was giving it extra health. And then each of these doors is associated to a rune color, and the Overlord got to pick a rune color. So we're going to go ahead and see if this was the correct layer. If it is, there's going to be some additional rules. All right, this was the red door, and the Overlord ended up choosing red. I happened to randomize it because I can't mind games against myself, and I had someone else check. So what that means is the layer is now open. So when Cadlisar comes onto the map, he doesn't go away anymore, and he would naturally get a +4 shield bonus in addition to his dice. He does not get that anymore. All right. He takes a fatigue from Word of Despair, but because he's full, he takes a damage. He is 1 damage away from getting knocked out, so he's going to have to pass on his second action. Sharon's going to go next. She's going to go 1, 2, 3, interrupt her movement to search. Let's see what she gets. She ends up getting a power potion. Flip this card over to reroll some or all of your dice after performing an attack. So she did what was that? 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 right there. And that's the end of Sharon's turn. Next up is Shalara. She's going to use a stand-up action and roll 2 red dice. All right, let's see how much she heals. She heals up 5 health right there, and then we put her back to the map. She's going to go right over here, and that's the end of Shalara's turn. Last up is Tatiana. She's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, and then her second action is to rest. She recovers all of her stamina, and that's the end of her turn. At the beginning of the Overlord turn, each hero heals up 1, so 1 for Tatiana, Grisbin, Shalara, and a Sheeran right there. Kalisar is going to pop down right here, and he's here permanently because the layer has been exposed. The Overlord gets to draw an Overlord card, which ends up being Poison Dart, and then they are going to activate Word of Misery here. So play at the start of the turn. During each time a hero suffers any damage, they also suffer a fatigue. So let's go ahead and do the first actions. We're going to start off with Kalisar and attacking Tatiana. If he takes out Tatiana, the Overlord wins this scenario. So let's go ahead and roll 1 blue die, 2 red die against her gray die and heavy cloak. All right, he needs to do 7 damage to take her out. So let's see what happens. Let's go into the castle. All right, we have a lot of damage here. So it's going to be 2, 4, 5 damage. Still no surges. -1, so she takes 4 damage plus a fatigue, but she's full on fatigue. Actually, she's not, so she takes 4 damage and 1 fatigue. So let's go ahead and place the 4 damage right there, and then 1 fatigue. And the Overlord's going to use Frenzy to go ahead and do the same attack. All right, same dice. Now the Overlord's trying to do, I think, 3 damage. All right, I think that's going to do it, but let's go ahead and add everything up. Oops, I think I moved that. I think it was a surge, 2 damage in the surge. That's pretty sure. All right, so that's 6, 7, 8 plus the surge for 9, 10, 11 minus the 1, 10 damage. Tatiana gets taken out, which ends up being the last hero token for the Overlord, and they win Shadowfall Mountain. All right, win or lose, each player receives an experience. The heroes they did not win, so the Overlord wins and gets an additional experience, and then Edge of Dawn or Piercing Darkness may be chosen by the Overlord. All right, let's go ahead and do those. All right, so Tatiana now has 3 experience. Shalara has 1. Sharon has 3. Grisbin has 2. They have 150 gold. The Overlord has 4 experience and 14 threat. So let's go ahead to shopping next. All right, let's go ahead and flip all 5. Latari Longbow right there. We have Dwarven Firebomb. We have a Dragon Tooth Hammer. We also have a Tyval Crystal, and then Ice Storm. So I'm going to go ahead and see who can use what, and then I'll reconvene here. The heroes decided to purchase the Latari Longbow for Tatiana. She was kind of getting really weak there, and her skills weren't really keeping up. So she's going to get another yellow die, and then her surges are the same, but then she also gets a natural pierce, which is really good. And the extra die is like a big winner here. Tatiana is going to spend her 3 experience on running shot, so each time she performs an attack with a bow before or after the attack, she gets to move twice. If she's wearing heavy armor, she only gets 1 movement point. For Sharon, we're going to grab Ancestor Spirits. Exhaust this card when one of our monsters suffer damage from one of your class skills. I haven't really used that, but they would each get poisoned. What I'm really going to use this for is exhaust this card when one or more heroes recovers health from my healing rain. I can spend a fatigue, and then everyone will also heal up 1 more health and 1 more fatigue, which is really good for the fatigue. The Overlord's going to spend its 4 experience on these 2 cards, so Diabolic Power lets the Overlord search your deck for any card, depending on what type of card it is. All the heroes have to take a test. Each one who fails suffers 2 damage, which is really powerful. This is the Magus level 3 card. And then Blood Rage is a Warlord level 1 card. Play this card at the end of your turn, choose a monster. It gets immediately 2 attack actions, but then is defeated. This is also really good for a monster has low life, or just a Hail Mary final attack, or I guess couple attacks, which is really strong. The Overlord's also going to spend 4 threat to purchase Refuse to Die plot card. You would exhaust this card at the start of your turn to choose a monster, place a threat token on it. It will have an extra 2 health, and then recovers 2 health at the beginning of each turn. So it's a good way to beef up one specific monster in an encounter. All right, this is where all of the experience gold lie at the end of this Shadowfall Mountain. So there's going to be 1 more of the choice of 2, and then the finale. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Good night.